All right, Detroit Bob here, and I found a box of sleeved 45s on my in-ramp, or unentered shelf, I should call it. And I figured this is probably a mix of specklers, Ypsilanti, a little bit of everything. So sometimes you have a gem right in your own collection and you don't have to go out somewhere and find it. So I'm going to spend a good part of a day entering all these in Discogs, and you're going to follow me along on the journey. We're going to zero in on some labels. We're going to tell you what the fine print says. We're going to talk about artists. We're going to talk about writers. We're going to talk about dead wax. We're going to talk about all the little printing plants that are now shut down all over the United States and tell you how to identify them. So you're going to want to stick around. This is going to be a really cool get into the guts of 45s issue. I think you'll like it. So stand by, let's get started, and let's have some fun with it. Okay, there's nothing really special about this except everyone is sleeved. So I pulled from about 3 or 4 boxes to get all the sleeved material. Why do I like sleeved material? Because it tends to be in better condition. What you hope for, here's a couple oddballs that aren't sleeved. What you hope for is that everything in there, some of them maybe were sleeved since they were originally bought. So that could be a near mint. But let's see what we got. Right off the bat, you see some old Columbia label stuff with people's addresses on it, some old Decca, some Cap, some newer Capital. So, RCA. Looks like we got some country in there. Let's see what we got. All right, Ray Stevens. Let's see what we got here. First thing I want to do is go into my Discogs and see what it says. I'll go right to the number typically. MCA 52657. Five two six five seven. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but it pops up about 3 or 4 different versions. So then if you can get a pressing plant, and it looks like Gloversville, because I know what that little logo means. So I'm going to go right down here to the Gloversville pressing. And it's a 1985 release. I'm looking at it better in my hot light. I'm going to give it a very good plus because there's some scuffing on that edge there. And I don't have it, so I'm going to add it to my collection. Very good plus. Sleeve condition. I'm going to rate the sleeve condition also as a very good plus because it's a matching company sleeve. And I'll make a note of that, company sleeve. I'm a terrible typer. I gotta rearrange some stuff. And I'm gonna go ahead and sell a copy. I'm gonna sell this copy. This is not something I would normally collect. So let's give it to somebody who wants it. Even if it's a not company sleeve. That's a $3 record, $3.06. There you go. So, for sale. And that's Discogs/user/Detroit Bob. So check that out. And I'll put this over in the file. Next one, a well-loved record, Mo Bandy. He's sort of a funny guy. And he writes almost to the point of novelty songs. She's not really cheating. She's just getting even. Okay, so there you go. That's the name of that song. Let's look it up and see what it's worth. So there you go, Mo Bandy. she's not really cheating. She's just getting even. That's a 56-cent record. Cheers. All right, the next record. First thing I noticed, what I call single color. And you got the band, the double bands, the double stripes across the record. That suggests age. Made in the USA, spelled out. Okay, Mercury Record Corporation, spelled out. This is from the 1950s, the Gaylords. Let's look it up. There's some writing on it. Someone put their initials on it. Ramona, I don't know if that's the A side or the B side, but let's see what it is. All right, there you go. There's the A side, Spinning a Web. It's a 59-cent record. Tear on label, sticker on label, good plus condition. Let's see what's next. Well, when you get these boxes full of records, you just get whatever is in it. So Anne Murray, she had a couple big hits. Capital label, capital sleeve. I'm not getting too excited, but I just feel I owe due diligence to the giver to go through these one by one. All right, that's a 90 center. So that's just taking up room on my shelf. But someone will buy it, and the money will go back into Rockmine. So there you go. All right, here's the next record. It's a mismatch, RCA Victor, but the capital sleeve is really cool. So they call it an OC45, optical center, optional center. So I think you used to have a little insert that you could put in there. Record albums for small spindles, play records as is at 45 RPM on 3-speed machines. For large spindles, punch out the center to play on 45 PM changers. So they were telling you how to do that. This record is a thermal plastic material. Do not expose to excessive temperatures. Capitol Records, Hollywood, California. So the sleeve itself is probably worth something. You don't see too many of these original Capitol sleeves. Let's look up the record. All right, there you go. That's actually a $8 record. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but it's an Indianapolis pressing. So in this dead wax up here, there's a little eye. And I gave it a very good rating. You can see some of it. I'd really have to zero in there. There it is right there. See that little tiny eye? That means Indianapolis. So that tells you the pressing plant. A lot of RCA, obviously, out of Indianapolis. I think they were based out of there, at least the record part of the corporation. There you go. It's almost a very good plus. I gave it a very good. I Get Ideas by Tony Martin. It's old. What year is it? 1951. So that's an oldie, and it was in an old sleeve, even though it was mismatched. It was in that capital sleeve. There's that capital sleeve, 25 cents. That's probably the original. I don't know, that could be a new sticker. Isn't that cool? All right, next up is Les Crane on Warner Brother Records, and it's got this weird sort of old Warner Brothers sleeve. I don't know if you can see that. I would say it's sort of from the 70s. Yeah, it says 1971. You know, Van Morrison, you'll see in this era, and I always pick up his stuff, but not so much Les Crane. So let's see what Les is worth. So there you go, Les Crane, $2 record with the company sleeve all torn up. I rated it very good. All right, you probably would never buy an album in this condition. But I'll tell you what, these 45s, these grooves are cut deep and wide. This will play. I'll rate it as a good. Tear, writing on label, multiple tears on label. Buck Owens and his Buckaroos. What a Liar Am I by Buck Owens, the writer. Let's look it up. All right, there you go, Buck Owens, Your Tender Loving Care. Yeah, it's a 1967 release with What a Liar Am I. I remember watching Buck with Roy Clark on Hee Haw. And you got to remember the Beatles, Ringo did the song, They're Gonna Put Me in the Movies. It's a Buck Owens song, isn't it? Yeah, Buck. Great Bakersfield country guy. All right, here's the next customer. Now, if you look here, this ZSS, probably zoom in there. The ZSS right there, number 11 on this side, 172011, 12 on the other side. So that, by default, the lower number would make this the A side. Let's see if it pans out. It's in pretty darn good shape. It's a very good plus. Once again, Mo Bandy, but this one's just called Mo and Joe Stampley. So in 1984, they were cranking out some sort of funny country hits. Good old boys, alive and well. All right, there it is, Mo Bandy, Mo and Joe. That's an $8 record. Problem is, it looks like it's been played a lot on a jukebox, so the B-side gets scuffed up in that case, and that knocked it down from a very good to a good plus. $8.25, only one's been sold before. I listed it for $5. The computer told me to list it for $3, but on rarity it might go for $5, so I'll keep it on sale for a while. Mo Bandy. All right, next up is this Randy Travis Warner Brother label. It says 1985 on it. Pretty clean. I'm looking at very good plus, maybe even near mint, and it has the company sleeve, just a generic Warner Brothers sleeve. So let's look it up. I think on the other hand is the A side. The number was lower, that 2385S. I told you to look for the low, but the computer will tell you once you look it up. Let's see what the value on this is. All right, there you go. That was the Randy Travis 1985. Off on the other hand, backed with Can't Stop Now, and I listed it for $4.50 as a very good. There was a couple scuff marks that dropped it out of very good plus. I think I'll get it because it's got the Warner Brothers sleeve with it. So there you go, $4.50 record. Now this record, I have a personal connection to. In 1982, they stuck me working with a guy that he liked nothing but country music. So there was no rock and roll that summer. He controlled the radio and we played country music, but I got to know guys like George Jones and David Frizzell and Hank Williams Jr. and John Anderson and all these country singers. And by the end of the summer, I was loving this song. So there you go. I thought Susan Peters also did a version of it, but it's called I'm Gonna Hire a Wino to Decorate Our Home. And it's about a woman that wants to keep her husband around, so she's going to decorate her home using an alcoholic. So what a great country song that is. Let's see what it's worth. All right, there you go, $1.06. But you know what? I got a connection to this record. So this is a $10 record in my heart. So there you go. All right, I don't know a lot about country music, but I'll tell you what, do not discount this genre. And you got to work at it and you got to listen to it. And if you listen to about a year of Willie's Roadhouse on Sirius XM, you'll come to understand these are some great songs that really come from the heart. Now, Ricky Skaggs, I think, started as a kid, and I think he plays the mandolin, but you'll notice the name Webb Pierce right down here under the writer. And so whenever you see Webb Pierce, I know he was a great country writer. This is in very good plus condition, and it's got a company sleeve. Let's look it up. All right, there we go. Ricky Skaggs, I Don't Care. I gave it, well, it's in the company sleeve, a little staining, but it pops up as basically a $2 record. So that's what I gave it. And let's get on to the next one. All right, next up, Bobby Bare and the Family singing in the singing in the kitchen. Stereo gold standard RCA. And there's your little horse. Horse dog. I'm still waking up. So the RCA and Victor, it used to be Victrola, and then they were bought by RCA. So RCA Victor, eventually it just dropped the Victor. But that A right there indicates the A side. So sort of a reissue probably. I don't see a date down here, but let's look it up. Sometimes these are good because they're great twofers. See what it looks like. Oh, there you go. Bobby Bear and the Family RCA Gold Standard Series. There was only one of these in Discogs. Only one person. So you want to, some of these coming out of these bars, you wonder if they just made like jukebox only versions. And so this may have never been sold in a store. And it just gets played once or twice and gets thrown in a box and ends up in Detroit Bob's hands 50 years later. So there you go. All right, next up, George Jones. And this is handy because you can scan it in Discogs. So that little bar graph scan code, you can scan into Discogs, saves you a lot of time. So let's look it up. And I love George Jones. All right, there we go. $1.29 record. I was able to scan it in using the barcode. Great condition. I rated it as very good plus. It was right on the border. It's if it was a $30 record, I probably would have downgraded it a little bit just out of extra caution. But it's got the company sleeve, little staining on the sleeve. I listed it for sale. Why is that? You know, what a classic singer, but $1.29. I think he did a lot of recordings near the end of his career, and I could be wrong, but sometimes the material fell off as they were just cranking out, you know, covers at the end of the career. I don't think it's a classic George Jones, but you got to love it, and there's a collector out there who wants this. All right, next up, the Golden Series on Monument. Almost always a reissue when you see a series. So Yakety Sax by Boots Randolph. Now, I remember my dad used to love the song, and I'm sure it was the Boots Randolph version, but I think the Coasters did a really, really good version of it too. Let's look it up. I'm quite sure this is going to be the A side. It does come with a company sleeve. First glance, I'm giving it very good on condition. Let's see what it's worth. All right, there you go. $1.91, even with the Monument sleeve. It says Monument is artistry. B-side was Shadow of Your Smile. Great song. I love Tony Bennett's version, but not enough to bump it up price-wise. So you can probably imagine there's not a lot of Boots Randolph fans still out there, but that's a shame. It's a great record. All right, next up, I love this. I just happened to be listening to a John Anderson CD. This one is called Honky Tonk Crowd from the forthcoming John Anderson album Countrified on Warner Brothers Records. So it looks in pretty good shape. It's got a company sleeve. You know, his big hit was Swingin', and he sort of got typecast, and he's really got a great voice. And a newer production was the songs of John Anderson that came out that had Sierra Farrell on it, and I think it was produced by the guy from the Black Keys. I would recommend picking up that album. Let's see what this 45 is worth. All right, there you go. Let's look it up. There's the sleeve, so you can see. And I give it it's almost near mid. But I'm going to give it a very good plus. All right, I listed it at $3. I don't think enough of them have sold to establish a price, but that's a good record right there. Okay, next up, we got Grandpa, and this is the Judds, and this is the mother-daughter duo that really hit it big in the 80s and 90s. Once again, that RCA, you sort of get that moldy build-up on the label. Condition-wise, it looks great, but it just sat in a bar. And a lot of these came out of Speckler's, which is that bar in Wisconsin that got closed and reopened by Tony's friends. So Tony gave me all of these. So, yeah, Wisconsin's a lot like Michigan, where if you get into the rural areas, you might as well be down south. They like country music. You get into Milwaukee or Detroit, that's a different story. But a lot of these honky tonks and bars, they don't call them the honky tonks up there, they call them bars. But they all had a jukebox, and most of them still do. They're more all touch tunes now, but these came out of these great bars where everybody went after work and drank away their sorrows. All right, there you go. Company Sleeve, the Judd's Grandpa. Tell me about the good old days. Back with Drops of Water, 1986. That's the last thing I was listening to was country music. But I tell you what, this is a $6.50 record. Very good plus with the Company Sleeve. So for you Judd's fans out there, you just go to Discogs/user/Detroit Bob. You can buy it. All right, next up, we got Mamas and the Papas. Look through my window. I don't know if off the top of my head. Probably would if I heard it. John Phillips was the writer. California Dreamin' put them on the map. It's probably one of the best 60s era songs ever written, and still holds up. The beautiful Michelle Phillips, his wife, and Mama Cass, who had the pipes. And Denny, was it Doherty? He's the fourth guy. Quite a group. They sort of really got that whole California hippie sound, and borrowed a lot from the Beach Boys as far as vocal harmonies, but they took it into a sort of a cool, but they were sort of short-lived. So let's look it up and see what it's all about. All right, there you go. It's $1.06 listed on Discogs as we speak. These are frustrating because there's about 9 different variations of this label. Like the name is all in one row on this one, but they probably printed, hundreds of thousands of these. So they're very common. It's not a signature song of theirs, but it's right in that era. But for $1, somebody can buy it from Discogs. All right, so I started pulling some records off of this shelf, and this is my inbox, if you will. And I figured I had a lot of leftover stuff from different fairs, flea markets, thrift stores. So the first priority, I said, let's just take all the sleeved stuff and enter that first. I ended up with a full box right here. And I'll tell you what, I got about an inch of records classified this morning. And, you say, well, it's a pain to put it in Discogs, right? Well, if you don't, your collection will soon grow to be unruly and out of control. So take the time, put it in Discogs. You can look up your collection, see exactly what you have, and you learn a hell of a lot by putting it in Discogs. So we're going to continue on and get this thing entered. All right, let's do it. All right, I'm listening to Seminole Wind. Is that what it's called? Here's the next record we're going to do right here. And once again, I'm in the middle of Specklers. These came out of an old bar in Wisconsin. Tony gave them to me this summer, and I just haven't had time to enter all these. He gave me about 400 records. So, I'm taking it as a challenge. Let's look this one up. Cuckoo Waltz, 6 Fat Dutchmen on Dot Records. All right, there you go. It's a waltz on one side, and I'm going to get some better lighting on there. It's a waltz on one side, and on the B side, it is basically a polka. There we go. That's pretty good lighting right there, right? All right, there you go. The next one. Now, this has got the barcode, so I can look that up. Randy Travis, he was huge in the 80s and 90s, and then he just sort of, I think he had some illness, so he fell off the trail. It looks unplayed. The B-side already said, not on any album. This says, from the Randy Travis album, Always and Forever on Warner Brothers. Let's look it up. All right, there he is on Warner Brothers Records. Randy Travis, I Won't Need You Anymore. It's a $3 record, and I went ahead and listed it on Detroit Bob Discogs. Check it out. And here we go. Next up, Ray Stevens, Would Jesus Wear a Rolex? And you got to love country music because the great titles they have. Ray Stevens did a lot of novelty stuff. He's a funny guy. It looks very good. It's got a matching MCA sleeve. Let's look it up and see what it's worth. All right, there you go. 65-cent record. Thank you, Tony. Right there. All right, here we go. Mo and Joe again. We saw this guy earlier, Mo Bandy. This one is called Where's the Dress? So who knows what that's all about. Let's look it up and see what it's worth. All right, that's a $2 record, and just you get clues sometime in the sleeves. Realistic. I think that was Radio Shack's brand, and it's called a record protector. So someone went out and bought 100 of these when they realized all their 45s had no sleeves. All right, next up is Chicken Fat by Robert Preston. I've seen this record before. I remember buying it. I thought it was something rare, but I think it's just sort of like an exercise record for kids or something like that. Let's look it up anyways. Okay, Chicken Fat is $1.50, but that's an example of 33 1/3 on a 7-inch record. So not all 45s are 45s. Some of them are 33s. All right, next up, they say they ran out of people at Motown, and they said, who do we got left? And they said, the Commodores. So the Commodores became big, and of course, Lionel Richie, man, All Night Long. Remember that one? I was all over MTV in 1983. So let's look it up. Probably very common, but let's see what we got here. All right, there you go. It's a $5 record, believe it or not. And I notice here it's MCA, and you might think, wow, it's MCA, and it's mismatched on the sleeve. But no, the sleeve was the distributor, and it says distributed by MCA. So that was probably the original sleeve on that, even though you would think it was mismatched. So a Motown in an MCA label, distribution by MCA, sleeve by MCA. So you get this once in a while. I'll tell you what, this record still plays great in bars and jukeboxes. I Want You Back by the Jacksons. We went to Michael Jackson's house last week, Thursday. So that was sort of cool. Humble beginnings for this family, and they're still Gary, Indiana royalty. So let's look it up. I bet you they made millions of these, but you never know. I know I've probably got 5 or 10 copies. Let's see what it's worth. All right, there you go. A couple things on this I wanted to point out. There's a very small detail that'll help you identify these records in the dead wax. I don't know if you can see that. Right in there, there's something that says ARP. Right there. ARP. It's cursive writing and it's stamped in there. See if I can zero in on that real good. It's hard to see, but it tells you that this indeed is an ARP pressing, and there's so many variations. Some of these have quotations, some of them don't. Motown's famous for doing different variations depending on when they were pressed or how many were pressed, and you got to sort of know how to do that. You got to get into that dead wax, which is this area right here. So that helped me identify it right away. Let's see how much it's worth for sale. All right, it's all about, who wants it, how many want it. $7 on this record. So I just listed it for sale. And I noted ringware, and that's what that is right there. When you see something say ringware. So someone who's buying this wants a clean label is going to note that I put ringware. And you don't have to do that, but you can piss somebody off if you don't notice writing on the label, tears on the label, or what we call ringware. So I rated it very good. It's not bad for a bar copy. It would be great for a jukebox. I guarantee you this sounds excellent on a turntable. Okay, next up, the Duprees, You Belong to Me on the A side. I bought and sold some of these on this Lost Night label out of Philadelphia. It's sort of an old label. I think they were a reissue for doo-wop. So there was a time period when the original doo-wop records sort of disappeared. Collectors gobbled them up, and people couldn't get doo-wop. So Lost Night, I think that was their niche, is doing doo-wop. So let's look it up. Sometimes these have real good value. Obviously, this was number 17 in someone's collection. Let's see what it's worth. All right, $2.50 for You Belong to Me by the Duprees. Tons of releases on this, but probably about 15 or 20 different labels. This was the only one on Lost Night. So you can get it on other labels. Otherwise, I think it would have more value. And it's not really a big name group. I probably know the song if I heard it. All right, next up, Boogie Nights by Heatwave. This has got some wear. Probably played in a jukebox, maybe not. This is a band that had maybe 1 or 2 hits. I remember it was a great song. It's got a great beat and groove to it. It was definitely associated with the disco era. Let's look it up and see if it has any value. All right, there it is, $3.60. Now, it helps if you can get into that dead wax area. I'm losing my voice. And if you look in there real close, there's a T in there somewhere. That tells you it's a Terre Haute. All right, this one is worth $3.60. And the reason I identified it so quickly is because I found the T in this dead wax, and it's sort of hard to see. So right in there, see that T in there? See that T right there? That tells you it's Terre Haute. You'll see that a lot on these records. Sometimes it's T-I, T-I-I, T-I-I-I-I, but the T is Terre Haute. They pressed tons of records there. So there you go. Boogie Nights. I didn't have a copy. It's now for sale on Discogs. All right, back at you. Here's Boogie Nights on the Memory Lane label, and this was the next one in the stack. Memory Lane was a reissue label, and it's almost always a twofer. I do remember this song, Always and Forever. That's like their slow dance song. So 1977. This is sort of cooler because you get both songs, and it came in the company sleeve. Let's see what it's worth. All right, it's only a $3 record. I said only. It's a pretty cool record. It's in the company sleeve, and there you go. They call that Memory Lane. And there you go. That's probably Kmart or Kresge on that label there. 45 doesn't say a price. I don't know, maybe 58 cents. I don't know. I just love the old Kmart label. I would have loved if it had a price on it. Very cool find. All right, let's look at George Jones here on Epic. I'll Just Take It Out in Love from Bartender's Blues. That's probably the name of the album, produced by Billy Sherrill. I think he's pretty much country legend. 1978. Let's look it up and see what it's worth. All right, a Pittman pressing, and I figured that out by the dead wax. And this record is never sold on Discogs before, so it couldn't auto-generate a price, so I put $3. So we'll see if we get it. All right, here we are, Jerry Reed with The Bird. It's actually a funny song, and it's actually credited to Jerry Reed and friends. I don't know who the friends were, but this is one of those that has got a lot of dust on it. It's probably never been played, so that's actually a good sign. It's got some ring wear, probably sitting on a shelf, sandwiched between a bunch of other 45s for quite a bit. Let's look it up and see what it's worth. All right, there it is. Looked it up. It is a $1.10 record. I had it on my wait list though, so I got that going for me. Okay, next up, Tony Bennett with the Ralph Sharon Trio. So figure that. Pretty clean. It's got some staining on it. It's almost like a water stain. Let's look it up and see what it's worth. All right, there you go. Columbia in the Columbia sleeve. A very iconic label. Looked it up. It's a $4 record. Tony Bennett in great shape. Was very good plus, and I rated the sleeve at very good plus. A small stain right there, but I don't think that's enough to knock it down. A little folded on the lower right. Okay, great record, great song. You might remember the Dumb and Dumber version with Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. But Mockingbird by Carly Simon and James Taylor. It's a remake of, who did it? Inez and Charlie. I think there was a 50s group that did it. But anyways, someone out there knows it. But this is a 1974 record. I'm sure they sold a lot of these, and this would play very well in a bar, in a jukebox. So that's probably why it's part of the Speckler's collection. Let's look it up. All right, there you go. $1.28. How disappointing, but great record nonetheless. All right, Freddie Fender. Everybody remembers this, I hope, from the 70s. I'll be there before the next Teardrop Falls. 1974 ABC dot label. I think they had merged by that time. And great song. He's sort of an underrated and underappreciated musician. Recorded at Sugar Hill Studio, Houston, Texas. I think he was from Texas. Let's look it up. All right, there it is. Before the next Teardrop Falls by Freddie Fender. It's only $1.18. It's good plus. It's got a lot of wear and tear on it, but I'll tell you what, that would sound great in a jukebox or just playing on your turntable. Okay, this next one has got sort of a wild Vegas looking cover. And there you go, RCA Victor. They were trying to go for the jazzy crowd. I think this is going to be a 1950s record. So let's look it up and see what it says. It's an EP, and right there, if you see that, that tells you that it's got more than 2 songs. So you got Tchaikovsky and Dancing in the Dark and a couple B-sides. So a little bit of an oddity. All right, there you go. It's a $6 record. I noted that there's a sticker and there's what we call a seam split. So your buyer's going to want to know that. Make sure you tell them. All right, this is sort of an oddity. I don't know. It's a promo. So when you see demo, not for sale, it's a white label, Columbia. We saw the red label Columbia on the Tony Bennett a minute ago. Mono, Lake on the Run. I don't remember the band Lake. Let's look it up. All right, $1. Condition was very good plus on the sleeve and on the A side. This is a mono side. It has a stereo on the B side, but it had sort of a mean rub on the B side, so I had to knock it down to very good. Just a band that probably never made it. Another great bar song. Paul Simon, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. And on Friday, you know, a lot of guys are out there drinking at the bar. They're probably thinking about at least one of the 50 ways. So there you go. Let's look it up. All right, there you go. $1.59. I got 2 other copies for sale. The record was very good, but the sleeve, I put it very good plus. That's a pretty good sleeve for a 45. So there you go. It had the T in the dead wax for Terre Haute, and that cut it down from about 12 records down to about 1. So make sure you look in the dead wax for those pressing plants. And we'll talk about that more in upcoming episodes. All right, there we go. The famous Motown label. Took a closer look. Yeah, closer. All right, let's see. I grew up. Well, I'll have to move it up a little bit here to show you. I grew up right about there. Halfway between Ann Arbor and Detroit. So I always looked at this and thought it was cool because it had a map of my hometown. And here we are, Detroit Bob. We're going over Motown, all these 45s that came out of a bar up at Speckler's, for the most part, up in Wisconsin. So they're still playing Motown all over the world. It was the largest minority-owned business in the United States. Barry Gordy, the founder and owner of Motown Records, and Lionel Richie, the big star of the 80s, teaming up in 1981 with Diana Ross for Endless Love. And I believe it was from the motion picture Endless Love also. So big hit, big movie, big song. Let's look it up. All right, Motown, Endless Love, $1.59. Let's move on. All right, Nancy Sinatra. Lee Hazelwood was her songwriter, I believe. Great song, Sugar Town. Sugar Town. Look it up. It's a great oldie, and I think it's underrated. Boots Are Made for Walking is her big one, of course, and then her duet with her dad, Something Stupid, I think it's called. But let's look this up. This is Beat to Hell. It's good at the best, but that means it got loved at this bar. All right, there she is, Sugar Town, even in good scratched up condition. It's a $4.22 record. Brand new, probably company sleeve, you get $20 for this. All right, here we are, Styx, Babe. Pretty good slow song. We got a matching sleeve, Memories. That's a reissue label. A&M, that's who it is. Let's look it up. All right, there you go. It is worth less than it was when they bought it. $1.99 then, $1.94 now. All it takes is for this to get in a movie or something like one of these shows, like what's that one about the ghosts? Kate Bush's song went crazy. If this went viral in one of those shows, this could be a $10 record. So whatever. Next up, Gary Wright, Dreamweaver, and great song. I probably got about 5-10 copies of this. But when I got all these records, they're all in a box. So you don't pick through them and say, I don't want this one, I don't. You just take the whole box. And just for shits and giggles, I like to enter all of them. I learn a lot. And even if they're not valuable, I learn about the label and all so forth. Let's look it up. All right, there you go. I only had one other copy, and it was in fair condition. So this is an upgrade. And you see Julie here. She owned it, and now I do. But it's for sale. You can buy it on Discogs, and that's Detroit Bob on Discogs. See if I can get that in there or not. Something like that. Look it up. But it's a great record. And, you know, if you read the Dead Wax, I found that T, and that eliminated about 10 other copies or versions of this. So you got to know how to read the Dead Wax and pull out the pressing plant. You're going to see ARP, you're going to see T, you're going to see PP, you're going to see SCR, all sorts of different printing plants. Hollywood, Indianapolis, you know, there's all sorts. Terre Haute's a big one though. All right, you get these kids records, and this one came within the sleeve. And believe it or not, there's people that collect these. So I think they were color-coded yellow in the beginning to designate them as children's records. So I think this is very early. Gene Autry is doing the vocal and the singing. So let's look it up. Oh, there you go. Peter Cottontail by Gene Autry. That was that yellow label. And sure enough, this is a 1950 release. It's a $5 record, 1950 children's record. So some people collect this stuff. So the sleeve is stained, and I definitely made note of that. But overall, for someone for that genre, 1950 is very early for 45 RPM records. I think technically they came out in 49, but 50 is about the earliest you're going to run across. All right, there you go. Killing Me Softly. Just heard it the other day. Holds up real well. Of course, it was redone by what's her name, and they sort of added a little hip hop beat to it. I like the original, but I get it. Roberta Flack, she had a great voice. All right, this is like only a $2 record. I'm surprised. A variation right there, that 413. There was one that said 446, but everything else was exactly the same. So little tiny things like that, you gotta look at two different versions. That can be hundreds of dollars difference. In this case, a few cents difference. All right, just when you think it was looking bleak, we got Quinn the Eskimo by Manfred Mann. And if you look very closely underneath that white, powdery, dusty mold stuff, you see Bob Dylan as the writer of that song. I've heard the Dylan version. I think George Harrison did a version. Let's look it up. All right, this is a $10 record, so that's sort of cool. This is what they call a cutout hole. At first I thought it was just black ink, but no, that's unusual. A lot of times the hole goes all the way through the record. There's another variation with some printing here, but I went into the Dead Wax and found the MR, which is Mercury Records. It is a styrene, which is a sort of a plasticky type of vinyl, but $10.71 on sale right now on Discogs. Okay, Willie Nelson, where he sang a lot of other people's songs. Everybody sort of fell in love with his voice. So 79 Midnight Rider, that's an Allman Brothers song. Greg Allman, if you look right there, has got the writing credits. So, very cool. The Electric Horseman LP. All right. There you go, Willie Nelson. I'm looking for his records to go up in value.
Cutout hole right there. It's a $2 record right now. It's not one of his signature songs, but still good to have in my collection. All right, every bar in Wisconsin has to have a copy of The Devil Went Down to Georgia. And this has got ring wear, probably just from playing. I think I got a copy of it. Let's look it up, see what it's worth. All right, Charlie Daniels, it's a $3.30 record, even in a good plus. It's probably a very good, I underrated it. But there you go, good pickup for some kid. All right, Carl Douglas, Kung Fu Fighting. Well-loved record. They call it the Remember series, so this is already on a reissue probably, and probably not going to be worth as much as the original, but let's look it up. There you go, they were all Kung Fu Fighting. 99 cents, 66 cents. And who could forget Paul Anka, I Don't Like to Sleep Alone. And big hit, sappy, sentimental, and it was all over the airwaves in 1975. Let's check it out. All right, Paul Anka, $1.83, I Don't Like to Sleep Alone. There you go. All right, there you go, the Jimmy Castor Bunch. And what's that all about? We're going to find out. The Caveman. So let's look it up. All right, there you go. It is the Jimmy Castor Bunch Troglodyte Caveman. Victor, RCA Victor in the RCA Victor sleeve. Turns out it's an $8 record. So there you go. All right, next up, Beat in the Night by Fever. Look at that. That's some good stuff right there. I imagine the disco night at the bar was pretty good. I'm getting some focus issues, so I'm going to change that out. All right, Beat of the Night should be better on the focus there. Fantasy is the label. Okay, let's check it out. All right, Beat of the Night, $4.24. Disco record. All right, here is Swing Time in Winter Time. Swing Town, a well-loved record. So look at that. Let's look it up. In this condition, it's good. So you can see that big-ass scuff there right there. But I would still play this. It played good on a jukebox. All right, a beautiful record in the middle here. You Send Me by Sam Cooke with Twisting the Night Away. Almost looks unplayed. Let's look it up. It's that gold standard series, so it's a reissue. But RCA, $6. You Send Me, backed with Twisting the Night Away. I almost rated it near mint, but I gave it some slight scuffing. Near mint, Indianapolis pressing that helped identify it. Single block letter I in the dead wax there. There you go. All right, we're about a third of the way through. This takes a while, and I'm going slow because I'm talking to you guys and explaining all these different label variations. I'm getting into the meat of the pack, starting to get less country and a little bit more pop and oldies. If you lived during the 80s, Wang Chung, everybody have fun tonight. And cool thing about this one, back-to-back hits on Geffen and To Live and Die in LA. So you see the back hits logo there. And Wang Chung, Geffen Records, from the motion picture To Live and Die in LA. And let's look it up. It's in great shape. Doesn't look like it's ever been played. Go, everybody have fun tonight. 1986 New Wave with To Live and Die in LA is the B-side. Look at that. $4.59 on Discogs now. Discogs/user/Detroit Bob. All right, Joel Dulcie, Shut Up Your Face. Recorded in Australia. I don't know if that's Aussie slang or just country slang, but it's pretty funny. All right, Shut Up Your Face, $1.49 record. Splish Splash Oldies series on Atlantic by Bobby Darin. Everybody knows this song. Let's check it out. All right, right there, Splish Splash, very good plus. Atlantic Oldies series, that's a $7 record. So that's pretty cool. All right, we're listening to Minibar in the background, but The Stroll by the Diamonds, I'm quite sure that's the song Led Zeppelin was referring to when they did the song Rock and Roll been a long time since I did the Stroll back-to-back hit series. I think it's the Purple People Eater on the B-side. Not quite the best matchup, but these are real popular and very collectible. So let's check it out. There you go. I listed it for $5. I think it's worth it in the original sleeve. One time a year you need that record. So there it is, Auld Lang Syne. Looks like another Kid record. Let's look it up. Can't find it, so any help out there on this Hard Rock, Coco and Joe, the Three Little Divorce. Les Tucker Singers. All right, I did find Susie Snowflake. Let's see how much that's worth. There it is, $10 record, Les Tucker Singers. That's in records. I couldn't find the other one, Three Dwarfs, but I found the Susie Snowflake. All right, Hard Rock, Coco and Joe. I finally found it by way of the other Snowflake record. $12. There you go. All right, White Christmas by Fred Waring and the Pennsylvanians. Let's look it up. There you go, Decca sleeve, Decca label, White Christmas, Fred Waring, $1.50. Laurie is the label, Snoopy vs. the Red Baron. Sort of a novelty song, but it was a big hit when I was a kid. Let's look it up. There you go, Laurie. Snoopy vs. the Red Baron, very good plus, small stain and tear on the label, which I noted. Stain, tear. I got it as a $3.59 record. Same label, same group, but it's a Christmas record. Sometimes these can be more rare. A lot of wear on this baby, though. All right, in this condition, it's a 50-cent record. Yay! All right, we got Let the Music Play on Atlantic Oldies series. Listen to the crazy Silent J and Bob CD in the background. So God only knows what the comments will say. Let's check Shannon, Let the Music Play. Let's check it out. All right, there you go, Atlantic Oldies series. Shannon, Let the Music Play is a big dance song, 70s, 80s. I think it was originally 70s, maybe not. Maybe it was 83. I remember, it was a good song. All right, this is an oldie, single caller, In the Mood, Glenn Miller and his orchestra. Black label. I'm going to say it's probably 51, 52, maybe 53, 54. Let's look it up. All right, I was right. It's old, 1952 jazz swing, and this is part of a 3-record set. So you see this a lot. That was an album, and probably, you know, as is, it's not probably worth a lot. I don't even know if I'll list it. All right, Detroit Bob back again. Shout out to our UK followers and subscribers. You guys are the biggest country outside of the US that is now listening to Rockmine. I think you guys are up at around 20%. Let's share it out there. One thing that's really broke me into the UK is leading with Northern Soul. And I got that Northern Soul top 500 record list from a subscriber that really helped me focus. And what I'm finding out, if you lead with Northern Soul, it gets you into soul, R&B, blues, and jazz, and keeps you sort of focused. And then, of course, you're going to pick up good stuff along the way. So it's not a bad idea to have a focus or a concentration when you go into these stores where there's literally thousands of records and you might only have an hour to spend. This week, as opposed to last week, last week we went to Michael Jackson's home. So if you didn't see Rockmine, the last episode, make sure you check that out. This week, we went to 7 different thrift stores in one day. So let's go through what we found. First of all, I'm not going to turn down an LP if I find it. Let's move that off to the side. But yeah, Brooke Breton, if you haven't heard of this guy, he's sort of like a Elvis baritone sounding guy. Did a lot of duets with Dinah Washington. A great, clean looking greatest hits LP, so I picked that up. I've still been on a little bit of a Peter, Paul, and Mary kick. I just saw the Dylan movie, so I picked that up. And Dan Fogelberg, early 70s folk, but I think this is one of his earlier albums that I think is in really good condition. This was stop number 4. So I'm picking up LPs along the way. And Nat King Cole, just clean and almost very good plus, if not mint. So I always got to pick up Nat when I find them. Gene Krupa on Verve. So very clean, very cool looking copy. Big Noise from Winnetka. That was one of my dad's faves. I think that's that live version, possibly with even Henry Mancini on it. But if you like great drumming, then you like Gene Krupa. And then we keep going. Gord's Gold. I almost passed over this, but I looked at it and it's real clean. I think I got it for like $1.75. So you can't pass up these LPs if you find them. And then at the stop number 5, you remember Valpo Vintage with Emily. So nice clean shrink wrap is still on it. It's been opened, but the Dells. And if you remember, they started out on VJ Records. So Stay in My Corner was one of their big hits, and it was re-released in 1968. They show up on Chess and Checker a lot too. So there you go. I picked up some soul and on LP. Little things I pick up along the way. Eagles Greatest Hits cassette. Okay, I'll take that sticker off there. I did not pay $1.49. You can't say no to a Miles Davis CD. Some of these are just like less than $1. So Cracker, I'm not going to pay more than $1 for an old CD, but these are great to listen to while you're categorizing your collection. Someone said start picking up wrapped, unused cassettes. So I got these for $0.25 a piece, and I got 2 bags of 45s. I was beginning to worry that I wouldn't find any, but I got some old label 45s, and we'll go through those one by one right after this, and we'll pick a gem of the week. Now, last but not least, I got this handy dandy record rack for 75 cents. So you can't beat that. You know, when you're organizing stuff, sometimes it's just handy to be able to set stuff here and grab it off your shelf while you're putting stuff in your computer. Don't forget, all this stuff now I'm selling on Discogs. Discogs is a online database where you can buy records. I'm only selling in the US right now, but you might want to look at my collection, the UK guys. I got a lot of junk in there, and I got a lot of mint in there, and well, near mint at least. So check it out. My goal is to have 10,000 records for sale. I have 10,000 almost in my collection now, and then eventually I want to have $1 million collection. So you guys can help me in the UK by spreading the word and sharing and commenting. I love it when the UK guys comment and say, hey, you missed this record, go back and get it. Because a lot of times I do. I'll go back and actually get the record. So let's find out what's in these 2 bags as far as 45s, and then we'll pick a gem of the week. Cheers. All right, let's take a look at the 2 bags of 45s I did end up with today. We were out in Valpo, so did a stop at about 7 or 8 different places, trying a different technique. And the first place we'll go over, they said, oh, we don't have any records. And I said, okay, I'm just going to take a look back here in your book section. And sure enough, there was some records, some 33s and some 45s. Second place I'd been to before, on the north side of town, I found some Common Soul records, but I think I got them for less than $1 a piece. First place, 25 cents a piece. So condition-wise, probably a little beat up, but I consider them placeholders. Take a look at them. All right, that's what I'm starting off with, a small bag of 45s from a resale shop on the town square. All right, right off the bat, I got this Mahalia Jackson on Apollo Records. A couple things caught my eye. The double lines, single color in Apollo, and also Apollo Records, New York, New York. Everybody's heard of the Apollo Theater. I have no idea. I would say the condition on it's very good. Let's look it up. All right, they do have it in a 78, but I don't have it in a 45 on Discogs, so figure that. I think it's a 1951 release. Apollo Records does have a lot of other releases. The 78 was 1951 Gospel Funk Soul. So there you go. Not in Discogs. It can be good or bad. Okay, I have no idea here. Lou Dale Records. It looks old. Once again, single color Lost Love by Jimmy Powers and the Highway Rhythm Boys. It sounds like an R&B band. Let's look it up. All right, there you go. Lost Love by Jimmy D. Powers. It's listed as a folk world country record on Lou Records. It's a $10 record. So it's now listed for sale on Discogs /user/Detroit Bob. Check it out. All right, next up is Charger Records. Once again, single color, red label, black ink, Dobie Grave. You've all heard of Drift Away, but how about the In Crowd? I know the Ramsey Lewis version of that. This just looked old, so let's look it up. All right, there you go. It's a good plus. I gave it a little bit of cleaning. 1964 funk soul record on Charger Records, and they were that label. Where the hell were the parent label was Crusader Records? So I don't know if it's a bootleg or what. Let me check out the value. All right, $3.59. I get people all the time say, "Oh, don't sell these records. They're only good or good plus. Nobody's gonna buy them." I just sold 10 of these good pluses and goods the other day. Sometimes people just want something they can play or throw in an old jukebox and not worry about. So there you go. It's a placeholder, but I paid 25 cents for it, and it's a $3.59 record. All right, everybody knows Midnight Hour. Actually written by Wilson Pickett and Steve Cropper, performed by Wilson Pickett, the famous version, but this is Michael and the Messengers on USA Records, obviously owned by Linda Richardson at one time, and it ends up on the county square in Valparaiso. I picked it up for 25 cents. Let's look it up and see what it's worth. Discogs says 1967 garage rock, and almost all the copies are the Messengers. This one is Michael and the Messengers. 3 people want it, only 1 person has it, so it wasn't able to figure a price. So I just went ahead and listed it for 10 bucks. And if you're not sure, list high, and you can always lower it later. So who knows? It could be an odd label. There's some staining on it right here, and I'll note that in writing on the label. So I'll edit that. All right, this record has a lot to get excited about. It's on red vinyl. It still has the single color label. It looks early. It says 45 RPM. I don't know, Millennium Recording. Sweet Georgia Brown, Brother Bones, and His Shadows. I think that's the Harlem Globetrotters song. Let's look it up. All right, yeah, sure enough, it's the Sweet Georgia Brown, Brother Bones. Interesting bio on him. Everybody knows the Harlem Globetrotter song. I got a more modern version of this, but this is sort of unique on the red vinyl. It says in good, I rated it good plus. It would probably clean up as a very good, but I think it's worth more than $2.50, but that's what it says it's worth. All right, here you have the Who, and it's pretty beat up, but you got to remember on 45s, these grooves are cut deeper and wider apart, and at 45 rotations per minute, you have more data going through your needle and into your speakers per minute, per second, than you do on 33s. So that's why they sound so damn good. They're mastered differently, a deeper groove, a deeper mastering, and a louder off-the-record sound, because they were meant to be pretty much a high-fidelity, jump-out-of-your-speakers radio format. And therefore, you can get a good plus like this, and this is a great song. This will blow your socks away. Listen to this on a 45, then on an LP, and test it out if you doubt me. Rumor has it McCartney heard this and said, "Oh, we got to get to work," right before the White Album. But it's a great song. This is the 6th copy I have of this record. As you can see, I had the list that it's got some writing, it's got some ring wear, but it's still a $5 record, and I only rated it at good plus. So don't be afraid to pick these up. If anything, they're placeholders. One of these days, I'm going to get a very good plus or a near mint or a mint and a picture sleeve, but you don't see those that often. So back in the day when everybody said, are you a Beatles or a Stones fan? I was a Who fan. I skipped school in '79 and saw them play at the Silverdome the day after the Cincinnati trampling, or the show after that. And one of the greatest shows I've ever seen in my life. All right, this is the last of them that I got at the thrift store on the square in Valpo. Caught my eye because it's a single color. Almost looks like a promo label. It's not your Liberty normal label. It's got a couple initials. Got my eye on you. The Rollers. Indeed, a promo. And it's 1961 doo-wop rock. And I went ahead and listed it for $1.50. Not bad for a 25-cent record. It's only good plus condition-wise. And then always make sure you put writing on label or ring wear. You know, this one I don't think you have to put the ring wear, but if you're selling something that's got ring wear and it's a very good plus or a near mint, you might want to note that. All right, heard it through the grapevine. I just hate not to pick this up. I probably got 5 or 10 copies, but sometimes you pick one up and there's a variation in the label that makes it a lot more rare. I don't think that's going to be the case. It's probably very good with a good cleaning. It might be good plus. I'll take a closer look and I'll tell you what it's worth. All right, there you go. It's a $3 record. You got some staining. You got ring wear. I gave it a good plus. If it was I have another one, the exact same version. If it was very good, it would go up to a $5 record. It's just they made tons of these, and it's really confusing because it's a 1968 record, but it says 1966, but that's probably the publishing date. So I had to get down and look at the font, and some of these are all in one line, some of them are 2 lines, and you got to look at each individual copy. So it takes a while to identify these. But yeah, for $3, I think I bought it for 85 cents. Yeah, it's worth it. All right, there it is. The Originals Moment of Truth. This is a beat-up record, but I just love this old soul label. And that was a Motown. It was a subsidiary of Motown. And you don't see a lot of the Originals. I think they show up on that Northern Soul Top 500. I don't know if this is one of them, but you got some initials, you got some ring wear. This is a well-loved record. Let's look it up anyways. All right, the Originals on Soul 1969, and there was a variation on just that little paragraph right there. 2 exact labels with just a changing of what album it was on. Someone wrote their name on it. It's a $3 record. If it was in good shape, it'd probably be worth 6 or 7. All right, Stevie Wonder, For Once in My Life. Well-loved record on Tamla, 1968. Let's look it up. I'm a sucker for these. I just can't pass them up. It's probably a very good, maybe a good plus, but let's look it up anyways. All right, there you go. It's worth about exactly what I paid for it, 88 cents. The X, it's an Indianapolis pressing, and that helped me wade through dozens of pressings of this. I didn't have one in my collection, so I got one now. So it's a placeholder. I'll wait till I get one in better condition. Yeah, pick these up. They're fun. All right, this one caught my eye because I just read a book about Stax Records, and I recognize If Loving You Is Wrong, I Don't Want to Be Right. Sure enough, in this fine print, you see Stax right there, and that's a label you should be familiar with by now, and if you're into the soul scene. But this is like some kind of weird subsidiary. I don't think I have anything. What is that? Is that Coco? Is that the name of the label? Coco Records, out of Stax Records, Memphis. So distributed by Stax. So it's got the Memphis, it's got Luther Ingram, it's got the song, it's got the date. Let's see what this thing is all about. Let's look it up. There you go. I rated it as very good, and if it was in great shape, it'd be a $6 record. $2.33. Not bad. Paid 88 cents for it. All right, one of the more famous records to come out of Stax, and of course, Sam and Dave, produced by Isaac Hayes and David Porter. Now, Sam and Dave were signed to Atlantic, but they sent them down to Stax to get that sound. And I'll tell you what, when they played with Steve Cropper and basically Otis, Booker T and the MGs, they basically got that soul sound that Atlantic wanted, and with Atlantic, Stax got the distribution that it needed. So it was a marriage that worked out pretty well for a while until Atlantic finally sold. Let's look it up and see what we got. $6 record. Very good. Sam just died just this past week, so I think he was 89 years old. I forget what his last name was, but he had a hell of a career. Dave died quite a while ago, I believe. Great record. I see the value in this going up just because of all the media attention to Sam and Dave lately. But what a great thing. And I still have to watch that Stax documentary, Soulville they call it. It's more about Memphis, but I think highlights the Stax sound. And I got to check that out. I love these guys. All right, the name of the show is Rockmine. Please subscribe if you love rock records, soul records, blues, or jazz. We love 45s here, and we try to emphasize them. Gem of the week right here on Stax Records is Soul Man. You got to remember Stax, they started out as Satellite, and they're out of Memphis, and they're really known for that soul sound. So Sam and Dave came down from Atlantic to record down there, even though they were technically Atlantic artists. And sometimes you'll see them on Atlantic, but this is their biggest hit, I think. Soul Man, I think it came out in '67. And this is in honor of Sam Moore, who passed away this week. So he was the Sam of Sam and Dave. And I believe they were discovered in Miami originally, and then Atlantic signed them and then sent them right down to Memphis to get that sound. And here you go. It's not a valuable record. I think in perfect condition in a sleeve, a company sleeve, probably $15, $16. This is probably $3 or $4. So you could pick this up. And this is probably good plus, maybe very good. But look at the history right there I'm holding in my hand. Sam and Dave, R.I.P. Sam Moore. You'll never, ever get another sound like that. The Memphis soul sound of Sam and Dave on Stax Records. This week's Gem of the Week.